your love strong enough? Are you living? Are you living for love? Are you living for love?
So Andrew, are you living for love?
Well, that's a complicated question, and my answer to it is even more complicated. That's where the 2 minutes at the end of the song comes in, where I'm singing real fast. I answer it in my own particular fashion. I kind of interpret the question differently. There's a complicated dialogue going on in the song between the female voice and the male voice. Not because they're female or male, I don't regard that as particularly important, but the dialogue is clearly two-sided because the sounds of the voices are so different. Because I sing baritone and Terry has a voice like an angel. My answer does involve serious use of weaponry. But that's kind of like a metaphor, really. I'm not sure I mean it directly. I'm very pleased with it on the album. I'm not sure whether it makes such a great single because the sting in the tail of the song doesn't really happen for about 4 minutes, and these days 4 minutes seems to be a long time to ask people to wait for the punchline, especially when it takes me 2 minutes to sing the punchline and I'm singing pretty fast by that stage. It's kind of complicated, and most people don't like complicated music anymore, do they? I always try and keep the surface fairly simple, and I try and have a good tune so that people get sucked in before they get hit. But I like to put a lot of stuff underneath, and that's quite unpopular these days, I think. People just want a song that goes, baby, boogie, baby.
You were working with Terry Nunn from the group at Berlin.
Well, kind of, yeah. The tape I was working from already had her vocal on it. So, although I met her once in the mid-80s, I didn't meet her to make the record. I just fucked around with the tape that her vocal was already on. But that was one of the reasons for my wanting to cover, if you want, that song, to work with that song and change it around, because I thought her vocal on it was great. So I used the original demo because I don't see the point in re-recording something if it's already so great to start with. So I edited it. I changed the bass and the drums and the keyboards around that were already on there a little bit. I got a friend of mine from Leeds to put some electric guitars on and then sang my stuff. So the original version sounds kind of like, I don't know, a sort of a Jennifer Rush song, I suppose, and the new version sounds like Jennifer Rush from hell.
You've been living in Hamburg now for 9 years, the longest time you ever spent in the city.
Yeah.
Why don't you want to come back to Britain?
Because it's fucked up. Maybe I'll move back there full-time when the government changes, or when the next few governments have started repairing the damage that Thatcher did. But the current government won't repair that damage. If anything, they're making it worse. Britain just doesn't work anymore. It's hard to live there because the infrastructure is broken. And particularly now that I can see Britain from the outside, I'm even more aware of what's wrong with it. And that does make me very angry. I would change it by offering to be mayor, but at the moment I can't see anybody voting for me. Maybe in 10 years or so, when I look like a mature, responsible adult.
Some people get by.
Andrew, are you a person who is hard to deal with? I mean, like, you split with the first edition of Sisters of Mercy, and then with Wayne Hassett.
Yeah,
and
there's only a
Patricia
couple of people that have ever been in the band that I'm not still friends with. These things are exaggerated by the press. And I think a lot of ex-members try and create a conflict maybe just to keep themselves interesting when they're not doing very much, in the same way that musicians are generally the kind of people that are very easily encouraged by lawyers to make work for lawyers. They're very easily led because they don't really know the business and because they haven't got anything better to do when they leave the band. But I'm friends with almost everybody that was ever in the band. And most of the people that were in the band for quite a while. Most bands don't exist very long. This band's been together for 13 years in one shape or another. So it's not really a history of conflict. We're just a little bit more open and honest about our internal conflicts, the internal conflicts that any band has. And because I'm not very good with the media, I'm not very good at answering the criticisms of me, or because I'm too busy doing something. And so certain rumours tend to gather strength just because I don't answer them.
Looking back on the split, was the reason really still that the words Wayne wrote for the lyrics of his was thing that you couldn't?
Yeah, I tried to sing them. There are a few bootlegs in existence of me trying to sing Wayne's words. You can just hear that I'm just not convinced by them. I can't breathe any meaning into them. And the other big issue was the whole issue of lifestyle. Those guys all loved to be on tour and they really didn't like doing anything else, and for me it was exactly the opposite.
You like the studio better? And
yeah, I really don't like being on tour. Playing concerts is one thing, I can just about handle that, but being on tour is, I find it really dehumanizing. And there are things that I prefer to do, and because I can do those other things, I choose to do those other things.
Wayne's form of writing is too hippish for you, like flowers and gardens and
Yes, I have a problem with his imagery, but mostly I have a problem with the fact that his songs don't mean anything, and they're not intended to mean anything.
You think you will still keep on going, work on your own, because as I can see, you're fascinated with the modern technique and making music? Or
yeah, I love writing songs and I love making records, and as long as the peripheral activities don't get too boring or too frustrating, then I shall keep doing that. You know, when I next get the chance, I'm going to go home, think about some new songs. I'm going to start doing that on my own. If I write the kind of songs that sound like I need help from outside, then I'll work with other people. Otherwise, I'll keep working on my own for the next album. I don't really know until the songs for the next record take shape what kind of people I'm going to have to work with, if any.
Is there someone you want to work with?
Not particularly, no. Not for a whole album. I mean, there are certain people I'd like to work with for maybe one single. There are producers that I would like to work with, that I would like to try working with. And there are singers that I'd quite like to make one song with. But as far as the band goes, I think I want to see what the songs ask for before I make those kind of decisions.